Happy Friday, quilt fans and scrap masters out there. It is so great to see all of you for week 14. We're going to roll and spin our way to another awesome randomly generated quilt block. Are you ready? Let's get started. And that is right, folks. Welcome back. And again, happy Friday out there. This is awesome. I'm having a blast bringing scrap masters to my personal channel right here on YouTube. So it is Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And please, we're doing a premiere. Go ahead and feel free to chat along with us in the comments and have a blast. Be great to see who all shows up today as we're bouncing around the brand a little bit, but it's still same old scrap masters, and I'm having a lot of fun here as we use our die and our color wheel to randomly generate a scrap block of the week. The quilt you see here behind me is 35 different weeks, 6 different blocks, 35 approaches, and that was series 1. We're now on series 2. Free pattern link below, and I appreciate you being here. Let's see what we come up with. Week number 14. Which pattern are we going to use today? Which block are we going to use today? 6. Golly, I feel like we've used a lot of that block number 6, but other than the fact that there are no rules, let's play by this one today. Okay, block number 6. What color? Here we go, here we go. Yellow. All right. That's good because I did update my scrap pile of the low volume neutrals because I'm going to need to use these as my yellow, so that'll be great. How many different fabrics shall I use today? Let's see. Let's go for a medium number. That always makes it a little bit easier when you're mixing and matching with this crazy block 6. Okay, 9. That is a pretty medium number, 0 through 20, and I can't use the first 2 or 3. 0 not really is not even on the die. I don't want you to think I'm crazier than I really am here, folks. So yeah, 9 fabrics. Let's do this with yellow. And because I don't have much yellow from the kitty, I'm going to bring this over here from the scrap cam, the scrap pile, and look at that I really only have what is technically going to be 4 fabrics. So looking at the wall, I know I can use with my yellow. If I bring my color wheel around here, I know that blue is going to look sharp, red is going to look sharp. I love this blue violet and the red violets together. That can be really fun. And as I look at the wall, I could introduce more and more of the blue and the red, which I like. So let's maybe steer that direction today. And that would mean that I could come in here and pull really something like this. And then that would give me, if I've got 4, 5, and 6. 7, 8. Let's bring in a little bit more of that blue. Okay. So we can make a pretty cool block looking at it this way. In order for me to pull this off, however, I think I'm going to need to utilize, and this is where I sometimes get myself a little confused. So we'll make today our darks from the purple family, even though there's only 2 of them, fabrics-wise. And then I'm going to make my mediums here. And then I'm going to make my low volume neutrals and these yellows stand out as part of my backgrounds. So now let's take our half square triangles and figure out how many different half square triangles I'm going to need utilizing starting with this low volume neutral. So here's 1, 2, 3. Oops, let's do it differently with just the mediums. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 5 and 6, so that's 3 of these because we get 2 per 3-inch squares, which is our starting size. I think works nicely. And so with our mediums, let's go ahead and just then match 1 of each of the 3 different fabrics to that. So these all become half square triangles. And then I'll need for the dark light combos, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, should be repeated, but 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, That's odd. All right, let's do for 13. So it means I'll need 14, which is 7 of these. Ooh. Wonder if I have any that are already made. Nah, I'll just keep on. Okay, so I'm going to need 7 of these paired up with that dark purple family there. Right sides together we go. And I'll use more of this lighter, brighter purple because I just like it today. I think it's going to really help everything pop. A couple of these. So those become the half square triangles. All of those. Now let's come back here and figure out how many of the solid squares of the lights. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I really have 3 pieces of fabric there. 4, 5, 6. Let's throw a couple more of these in here. 7, 8. Boy, my scrap pile's getting low. Okay, so these all need to be made into squares. And then when it comes into our medium squares, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 only. That's all I've got left. Amazing. Wow. Okay. And then of the, oh wait, those were the mediums, right? For the darks, I need 1, 2, 3, and 4 again. So I'll just take 2 of each of these. And we are ready to start making parts and pieces so that we can assemble all of our units all at one time together. Iron's getting hot. So first thing I'm going to roll is my edge guide now out of the way. And I'm going to start sewing these half square triangles together just using my edge tape there and kind of eyeballing it, because with these 3-inch squares, we're going to yield 2 2.5-inch half square triangles. And we'll be able to trim them down real nicely here in a moment using something like a slotted trimmer or a block lock or a standard ruler. Okay, then once I've basically gone down one side of all of the half square triangles to be, I'm using the thread cutter on my machine just to separate out the pieces. And now we're going to do another parallel line of stitching. This is like when you draw the line, and a lot of you may have chosen to draw your line today, and that's fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit more carefree quilting, a little more slop technique that I like to do, but it works great. Don't need to be too concerned. And I'm really excited. I'll just mention real quick, next Friday I will be teaching this. I believe, well, I'm going to be in Hawaii next Friday. I know that. And I'm not sure if this is the day I'm teaching or not, but I will take my stuff with me and we will see a random roll and spin next week from Hawaii. No guarantees I'll actually be able to sew the block, but I'll put up a fun little video post nonetheless for you. And of course, stay tuned because I'll be getting a bunch of wonderful footage from Hawaii, as well as talking about my year 14 coming up as we are on block 14 today. If you don't know what year 14 means to me, folks, check out some of my cool videos about recovery. And now I'm going to go ahead and slice these all to separate them into the units of the half square triangles. I'm just going to go ahead and use my ruler to protect my hand. And we don't have to have a perfect 1/4 inch between because we will go ahead and trim these down. Okay, and now when I'm doing this style of sewing, kind of scrap sewing, kind of willy-nilly, I love using the slotted trimmer to go ahead and trim down. So I'm just going 2.5-inch mark on the slotted trimmer, and I've learned over time, I just dog ear visually versus trying to stick the cutter into the slots on the trimmer. So basically just a nice even triangle cut there. Okay, once the trimming's done, I'm going to go ahead and get to pressing. And for these, because they all are featuring one side that's kind of the light, I'm just going to go ahead and press by holding up the darker of the two fabrics and let the seam lay that direction onto the dark two fabrics, or the darker of the fabrics, I should say. Nice and easy. I love having the wool mat so that it anchors everything down nice. I'm going to go ahead and stack my half square triangles into the light and dark and light and medium families. And then as far as these squares go, if you haven't seen me do this before, I'm going to kind of stack about 4 to 6 of them at a time, looking for one clean corner. And I'm just going to trim 2 edges from there because these are roughly 3-inch squares. And I'm going to take them down to 2.5s to match the half square triangles, and then we'll begin our assembly. So with about 6 squares, things will stay nice, and I'll put my 2.5-inch mark, my 2.5-inch mark on my square ruler there, set the cutter for heavy duty, and go ahead and do those as needed like that. And then I should probably separate those also into the dark and the mediums, and then we'll have our lights here. And now that all the units are made, we've got less fabric in our stash, more in the dog bed bin there, and we are ready to start assembling out this awesome block number 6. Okay, I find it's easiest to go to the center and grab myself a couple of different half square triangles with the 2 darks and the 2 mediums, we'll call them. And now, dark facing out and out. We're going to build our center here. Mediums facing in and in. That's the center unit we see here. This one stumps me a little bit, so I have kind of learned over time, off of this diagonal is going to be the 4 different mediums. So here will be 1, 2, 3, and 4 of those mediums. And then also out here will be mediums with the half square triangles with the light fabric pointing in. So that kind of helps us build the next 4 patches as we go. I find that helps kind of control the units. Of course, you can build them making the units as I've designed them here, but sometimes that gets a little confusing. So watch P and Q because they're different for the orientations, okay? That being said, now what I'm going to need is the 4 dark squares. I'm going to have 1, 2 here, and then on this side will be the other ones, kind of opposite. So it's starting to go a little smoother that way, okay? Because I have only the 2 difference of the darks, I'm going to now place in the next round with the lights facing in, and I'll just use whichever opposite color of the dark. Like that. Okay, so it's starting to come together and make a little bit of sense. On the outer ones, we need the lights to form a peak away from us. So in this situation, I'm going to switch this and this here. So the light peaks will point into the blocks. Oh, this is going to turn out beautiful, this color combination. I'm very excited about this. Can I do a little bit better there? Only if I switch that middle, and I don't think that's important, so we're just going to let it be. Now the rest will be to go around and fill in these light colored squares. And there's our block today, folks. A little bit of pop, a little bit of fun. You can definitely see some scrappy nature to it. So the easiest way for us now is to go ahead and just sew across these rows. So I'll lock back in my 1/4 inch seam allowance guide, all right on top of that black tape. This makes it really easy for me. I love using this machine this way. And now I'm just going to go ahead and lay edge by edge as I go across and start building out rows. Then I'll do all the pressing and put the rows together into the block. So as I come off the machine with my last series of pieces sewn together here now into rows, as you can see, I'm going to start pressing each row in opposite directions just by flipping my strip. Flipping the strip, something like that. So here I'm just pressing all to the left-hand side. Then as I bring it back to the table, this one here I'm just going to rotate so that my pressing stays natural. And then the key is just make sure you spin it on the way back in and or do all of your pressing this way before you do any more sewing to make sure that you have all of your rows back in the proper orientation. Especially something like this where it's a 6x6, so it'd be easy to get things mixed up if you're not being careful. And so with these rows pressed to nest the seam allowances, now I'm just going to flip them over and get right back into the machine, kind of wiggle those first series of blocks so everything lines up nice and proper, and 1/4 inch all of these together. At this point, I don't wait to press, right? I just go ahead and start pressing the rows, and I try to kind of press up into the block as I build so that I can add on the next row as I go. And here we go. I've got that last row on. Let's check it out here as soon as I get this pressed over. Oh, it's looking terrific. I love the color combos this week. Week number 14, block number 6, 9 fabrics from the yellow family, folks. Have a blast doing this. And again, I just really want to say how grateful I am to see you all here. Thank you for participating in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. This should be the home of Scrap Masters moving forward. I'm not exactly sure as there's a little bit of a transition going on, but I didn't want to miss 1 week of our roll and spin together in our wonderful quilting community. So grateful to have all of you here with me. I know I'll be seeing a couple of you really soon. Next week in Hawaii, I will see all of you from the Aloha State with a wonderful roll and spin video next week from the big island of Hawaii while I'm there teaching, maybe, and playing a lot. Thanks for being here, folks. Have a blessed weekend. Until I see you again, please be well.